to. Well, Mr. Speaker, I rise today to salute the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta and the province of Quebec for putting in place emergency measures to deal with the possibility of an invasion of zombies. Now, I don't need to tell you, Mr. Speaker, that zombies don't recognize borders and that a zombie invasion in the United States could easily turn into a continent-wide pandemic if it's not contained. So on behalf of concerned Canadians everywhere, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs, is he working with his American counterparts to develop an international zombie strategy so that a zombie invasion does not turn into a zombie apocalypse?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure this member and all Canadians that I am dedicated to ensuring that this never happens. I want to say categorically to this member and through him to all Canadians that under the leadership of this Prime Minister, Canada will never become a safe haven for zombies, ever.
Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report. Today it's Monday, February 18th, 2013. I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com if you're new to GGN, and also YouTube. DDarko2012 and DDarko2013 on my YouTube channels. Okay, I have this first article, Zombie Replicants to Outperform the Living, from February 8th of this year. The first stage of the zombie cell only moderately heated. The cell is now pure silica and needed a gold coating for a scanning electron microscope to image it. So, it says here, these zombie mammalian cells that may function better after they die have been created by researchers at this laboratory in the University of New Mexico. The simple technique coats a cell with silica, or with a silica solution, to form a near-perfect replica of its structure. The process may simplify a wide variety of commercial fabrication processes from the nano to macro scale. It's also allowing scientists to preserve cells down to the minor grooves of its DNA. This is something that I'm not surprised of. I've talked about it before. I've mentioned it to friends and family. Leading geneticist says human intelligence is slowly declining. This is by design, I think, of course. I showed you I don't know how many times the BBC article that basically says that the human species is going to split, and I think it already has. That's the thing we tend to think, especially in alternative media. You tend to think that that this is all going to happen way down the road, right? Like 1984 and Brave New World. I don't think they were really talking about what was coming way down the road. I think they were talking about what was already here back then in the 40s or 30s, and so it's only gotten progressively worse. Worse for us, for the plebes, but really good for our social engineers, our engineers. So it says here, would you be surprised to hear that the human race is slowly becoming dumber and dumber, despite our advancements over the last 10 years, or even, that's what we call progress, right, of weapons to kill people. You go to the doctor, and you end up getting worse, really, and paying a lot of money, too. It says here, over the last 10 years or even hundreds of years, some experts believe that humans are losing cognitive abilities and becoming more emotionally unstable. So the researcher, a geneticist, believes that our intellectual decline as a race has much to do with adverse genetic mutations. Goes on here and it says that these capabilities are fueled and determined by combined effort of thousands of genes. If the mutation occurred in any of these genes, which is quite likely, then intelligence or emotional stability can be negatively impacted. It says here, I would wager that if an average citizen from Athens of 1000 BC were to appear suddenly among us, he or she would be among the brightest and most intellectually alive of our colleagues and companions. So it kind of reminds you of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, with a good memory, a broad range of ideas, and a clear sighted view of important issues. Furthermore, I would guess that he or she would be among the most emotionally stable of our friends and colleagues. The geneticist began his article in the scientific journal Trends in Genetics. Further, he explained that people with specific adverse genetic mutations are more likely than ever to survive and live amongst the strong. Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest is less applicable in today's society. Therefore, those with better genes will not necessarily dominate in society as they would have in the past. So So this is what it kind of talks about a little bit in that BBC article, except they actually contradict this concept. So it says here that let's take a look at our food system and how it plays a role in all of this. Of course, the one is what? The big one, the water supply. Fluoride is lowering your IQ. There's been studies that have been proven this, and it goes all the way back to even the 50s. So pesticides are diminishing intelligence and lower, it says here, decreased cognitive function. Also, you have processed foods, high fructose corn syrup, which has mercury, which attacks the brain neurons, is making people stupid. Then we have killing the zombie lie that we're all living longer. We keep hearing this. You hear this from people a lot. And it says here that this is from July 6, 2011, that you hear this one all the time when it comes to Social Security and Medicare. We have to raise the retirement age because we're living longer. So it goes on here and says we've been arguing against that one for a year now. The fact is men are living less than 3 years longer, and it says women about 5. Yes, there are more people living longer because they didn't die at the age of 3 or whooping cough or polio, but the life expectancy for an individual has not been extended very much at all once age 65 is reached. Disturbingly, pushing the retirement age out 5 years, as is currently proposed, actually means an individual male retiree today is at risk of being cheated of 2 years more retirement than our supposedly drastically shorter-lived forebears received more than a half-century ago. Says the latest available information is demonstrating that the gains in life expectancy that led to the zombie lie in the first place is now being reversed, of course, through the eugenics, right? Because they're not going to need us for working the fields and stuff like that. Everything's robo-sourcing and drones and that, computers. From 1987 to 1997, there were 227 countries where female life expectancy dropped. From 1997 to 2007, the number of counties where women's life expectancy dropped exploded to 737. Besides the precarious state of women, life expectancy for black men and 2/3 of the nation's counties is no better than it was in other rich countries in the 1950s. So this follows this article. A 102-year-old woman, fine, she says, I'll quit smoking. So I guess she's sick of hearing it from her family members who will probably die halfway her age, right? British great-grandma finally gives up the habit. Who says life stops at 102? On her second year past the century mark, Clara Colwell has given in to her family, basically coercing her and telling her what to do, and agreed to quit smoking, the Daily Mail reports. The British mother of 4, grandmother to 9, great-grandmother to 12, and great-great-grandmother to 4 conceded that after puffing on some 60,000 cigarettes, falling ash has become a risk to her health. But it says here it could backfire. The secret to Mom's long life is a cigarette and a cup of tea with whiskey. See, but that's how they tell everybody now. That's gonna kill you. It says here, it says her 69-year-old daughter that in hard work and poverty, she says, is an inspiration. So this is how it works. One of this commenter made a good point. Now that she quit, she'll be dead in 2 weeks, right? Idaho, Arizona schools go into full prison mode. School kids in Yuma, Arizona, which is a crap hole, are taken into protective custody. I'm sorry if you live there, but that's just my experience with it. Schools in Meridian, Idaho, went into full prison mode after a student who brought a folding shovel, it says, I guess that's be kind of like an e-tool or something, to Heritage Middle School in Meridian, Idaho, prompted the school's resource officer to call for a full lockdown. So they told the news that the youngster had been seen jogging out of the school, then back into the school in what staff members thought was an axe. After the resource officer called for a lockdown, police arrived seconds later, set up a perimeter, and deployed search teams, i.e. SWAT teams, to confront the suspect, an innocent teen who had brought the shovel to serve as a prop in classroom presentation. That happens a lot now. Classroom presentations, they bring things, these students, and they end up getting suspended for it. Meanwhile, students at 4 nearby schools were put into a shelter-in-place mode. That is, they were confined to their classrooms until police at the middle school gave the all-clear. All this occurred once again because a junior high school student brought a shovel to school, and none of the adults on campus was blessed with the presence of mind to approach the kid and find out what he was doing. Interestingly, the state stenographers and local media referred to the farm implement as a military-style shovel, On February 5th, 3 schools in Yuma, Arizona were placed on lockdown as a result of what was later described as a rumor of a gun on campus. And later, the 2 federal agencies and local law enforcement, kitted out in full combat attire, were mobilized for the operation. Then you have federal law. It says every living American can be arrested right now for felony possession of drugs made in their own brains. So it says if you're reading this, you are guilty of felony possession of a Schedule I controlled substance. You, like everyone else who is alive and breathing, can be arrested right now by the U.S. federal government, charged with felony possession, then proven guilty of that possession because you do possess a Schedule I substance in your own brain. It says here it's dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, sometimes called a spirit molecule because of its ability to allow humans to transcend states of consciousness. So it says, unless specifically accepted or unless listed in another schedule, any material, compound, mixture, or preparation which contains any quantity of the following hallucinogenic substances. So there you go. How neuroscientists are hacking into brainwaves to open new frontiers. Link should be posted, so you can go check it out. Neuroscientists are following through on the promise of artificially enhanced bodies by creating the ability to feel flashes of lights in invisible wavelengths, or building an entire virtual body that can be controlled via brain waves. Things that we used to think were hoaxes or science fiction are now becoming reality. It says here there's been other studies in which monkeys learn to use their brain waves to control robotic arms or manipulate virtual objects on a computer screen. So this is kind of a follow-up article. Scientists create sixth sense brain implant. A brain implant which could allow humans to detect invisible infrared light has been developed. It goes on here and it says that although the light could not be seen by these lab rats, they were able to detect it via electrodes in part of the brain responsible for sense of touch. So a similar device has been used to make up for lost capabilities, including paralyzed patients. So that's what it's going to be used for now. It's going to be used for, because most of us are going to be gone, right? We're going to be useless seaters and stuff like that. I mean, can't function in society. So this is, like I said, for cyborgs and that, for the elites. It says here, a breakthrough, the first bionic hand that can feel. So the first bionic hand that allows an amputee to feel what they are touching will be transplanted later this year in a pioneering operation that could introduce a new generation of artificial limbs with sensory perception. Yeah, so you can help the patient. And this just came out the other day, February 15th. FDA approves first bionic eye for rare disorder. Retinal implant and camera targeted at adults suffering late-stage retina. So again, this is all the infrastructure. If you put the pieces together, you see what is actually available right now, technology-wise. Fish are becoming easier to catch because traces of anti-depressants are getting into water supply and making them more relaxed. So if it's doing it to fish, I'm sure it's doing it to people, right? Sedatives are getting into the waterways through sewage. Study finds it makes fish bolder and causes them to eat more quickly. Effects could harm delicate marine ecosystems. And again, like, how about people, right? So it says that these sleeping pills may be disturbing river ecosystems by turning fish into greedy, risk-taking loners. It says normally perch are shy and hunt in schools. They left the safety of their schools to forage alone, making them vulnerable to predators. In Mexico, bird flu outbreak hits about 500,000 in chickens. European horse meat scandal not likely to happen in the U.S. So does that make you feel better? And it's actually donkey meat. We have what? Horse meat inspection ban lifted in the United States from November 30th, 2011. And this article just came out saying that it's not going to happen in the U.S. 2 vaccine study participants died during the trials of the first genetically modified, or GMO, flu vaccine. It's called Flublok. It's for influenza, and it says here it has GMO proteins derived from insect cells. It says here one of the potential side effects is Guillain-Barré syndrome, like the swine flu vaccine, but 2 people actually died in the trials. Teen dies from flu after receiving flu shot in Minnesota. Second Minnesota teenagers reportedly died from complications of infection of the flu after the health officials told everybody to get your flu shots. But missing from the news reports is the 14-year-old had already been vaccinated for the flu. It says here, proving the utter failure of flu shots to protect against them. Brazil cervical cancer vaccine to be given to teenage boys in Australia. So that's nice, right? Do men have a cervix? No, men do not have a cervix. Merck researcher admits Gardasil guards against almost nothing. Ecologists or eugenicists urge government to move beyond existing levels of public permission, engineered consent. Governments can and should move beyond the levels of public permission in order to shift the norms, allowing public sentiment to later catch up with the regulations. Killer storms, mild winters, that's climate change.